The offseason rumor mill of the NBA is in full swing, and the Sixers once again find themselves in the mix. This comes following the elimination by the Cleveland Cavaliers and the finger pointing amongst the entire organization that has occurred after fact. That shortly after the Boston Celtics sent them packing after 5 games, there was a hit piece ready to drop from Shams Charania and a couple other writers that weren't involved in the making of the piece. And most notably, the biggest storyline in it is the likely divorce between Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell. So to read into that report here, we have here that rival executives are preparing for Cleveland to choose between keeping Donovan Mitchell or Darius Garland, and they expect Garland's camp to potentially look for a new team if Mitchell remains in Cleveland, per Shams Charania. Quote, rival executives believe that the Cavs will have to seriously evaluate the fit of Mitchell and Garland and ultimately may have to choose one or the other should Mitchell decide to stay long-term. Sources briefed on the matter say Garland's representation, Clutch Sports CEO Rich Paul, would have a conversation with the Cavs officials on potentially finding a new home for the one-time All-Star. So this was kind of the biggest bomb that was dropped in the story, but there was a lot more to read into. That the future of J.B. Bickerstaff is currently uncertain, and the Cavs even mentioned in there, or it was mentioned in the article by whoever the source is that told these people that the Cavs are going to look into check the market for the other coaching options before fully making a decision. They're going to evaluate the job that he did. That can't be a great feeling if you're sitting in J.B. Bickerstaff's shoes right now. There also were some comments made about the concern over why Jared Allen wasn't playing and some frustrations that he was not taking a numbing injection to have a chance to suit up and play. Now, in Donovan Mitchell's defense, he has done his best to calm these down. He specifically reached out to Adrian Wojnarowski to say that he has no issue with anybody. He wants to be in Cleveland, all these things. Similar online that he quote tweeted a report saying that he didn't get along with some of the teammates, his complete cap, and said that he's basically sick of everybody. So I do respect the job from Donovan Mitchell, but the reality of the situation is things are not quite right in Cleveland, and that is where the Sixers come in. As whenever there is these types of names popping on the market, as Darius Garland may be the case here, that the Sixers are going to be a team to have their names involved, and according to Bovada officials, they are tied for the third best odds behind the San Antonio Spurs and the Los Angeles Lakers to be able to trade for Darius Garland. Now, I have some good news, bad news here. For the bad news side of things, I have zero interest in Darius Garland. That I don't think he's a guy that is a missing piece on the Sixers team, and there are a number of reasons why I feel that way. Let's start with the contract that you can see. Very notable that he still has 4 years remaining on it. He's due to make $36.7 million next year, $39.4 million the following year, $42 million after that, and then $44 million after that. And nonetheless, don't miss this last bullet point at the bottom there, that there is a 15% trade bonus for Darius Garland there. Yeah, I'm out on that one. That is a lot of money for a guy who, even if they are to trade for Darius Garland, and I'm going to dive a little bit more into the basketball reasons for why I'm not into him, but number one, if you are to bring in Darius Garland, they're running to the exact same problems that the Cleveland Cavaliers have with a backcourt of Tyrese Maxey and Darius Garland that the Cleveland Cavaliers had with Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland. That when you have two undersized guards as the focal points of your team, there's just some limitations that you have to deal with there. Now, I get that Joel Embiid obviously is a difference maker there, and the Cavs had other issues than just Garland and Mitchell. Frankly, I think the Evan Mobley and Jared Allen combo, the duo down low, is more problematic than the guard pairing in my honest assessment there. But I don't think that Darius Garland would fix anything from the Sixers' perspective. There was a point in time in which I was a big Darius Garland guy, but it does feel like his trajectory has not gone on the same upward path that it once looked to be the case. And to dive into the specifics of that, to look at the stats, look at the kind of nosedive that things have taken. That he looked to be on the clean progression, and we'll just start with the points per game here. 12.3 as a rookie, then 17.4 his sophomore season, 21.7 where he took that leap, made an all-star game in his third year, and that's where there was a great deal of excitement. Then dropped to 21.6 points per game the following year, just 18 points per game this year, the lowest since his second season. That is not great there. Now, the assist numbers also took a nosedive this year. He climbed all the way up to 8.6 assists per game during that All-Star season, dropped down to 7.8 and down to 6.5 this year. When you look at the shooting numbers, also took a little bit of a dip. That 46.2% from the field, which he shot the past 2 seasons, dropped down to 44.6%. His three-point percentage, while after shooting 41% from 3, a career high last year, dipped down to 37.1%. Now, is this something that drastically alters how I feel about Darius Garland? Not completely. I think this is most likely had a little bit of an off year and he will bounce back. And I think a lot of it had to do with the fit of the team as a whole. But there still are some red flags that I see, and I'm not going to overlook the Game 5 performance that really sits on me. Game 4, I thought he was poor as well. He still ended with 31 points, but it took him 27 shots to get there. And then in the elimination Game 5, let's take a look at this right here, that the Celtics secured the 113-98 victory. No Donovan Mitchell due to injury. Darius Garland played 44 minutes, finished with just 11 points, 9 assists, 2 steals, 2 turnovers, shot 4 for 17 from the field, and 0 for 4 from 3. And beyond just the raw numbers, it didn't look like there was that will to win that I wanted to see from the guy. What I kind of have come to expect from Darius Garland, one of the factors that I like to see from. Like, as I mentioned, there was a point in time where I was hand up a Darius Garland guy, but it does feel like he strayed from the path that was so appealing to him as a player at that point in time. Now, the good news of this is another notable name hopping into the trade conversation. And in fact, I did want to pull up this here that said that some teams have indicated that they would prefer pursuing Darius Garland over Trae Young, per Jake Fisher. That is an interesting kind of change to the marketplace when talking about player availability. And why I think that is a good thing as it pertains to the Sixers is the more names available, the more potential deals that can come down. And as you're looking about all these guys that could potentially change teams, the Brandon Ingrams of the world, the Trae Young, DeJounte Murray, Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, that what I want to see happen from the Sixers perspective is bring in the scraps. Even if none of these guys are the premier player that you're looking to change your offseason, maybe that's still Paul George, maybe that's Jimmy Butler, maybe it's none of these guys, that there are capable players that you should be looking to bring in, the role players and the amount of salary pieces to make a contract or make a trade work. That is where the Sixers should be looking to capitalize. That because of the CBA and the strict standards that are set in the NBA as far as matching salaries and all the other factors that play into it, that the Sixers have a chance to get in the mix, come out with, some players that can help this team, even if it is not these superstars. I've even talked myself a little bit into wondering what a Jared Allen trade would look like, because that's not a guy who's making too much money. He's absolutely would be the best backup center that we've ever seen. That's a guy that I could see playing with Joel Embiid for spurts. It would be interesting to think about. So these are phone calls that still should happen, even if I'm not in on the idea of trading for Darius Garland, which once again the Sixers tied for the third odds across the entire NBA for. There are players on the Cavs that maybe could be compatible on this roster, and Isaac Okoro does pique my interest a little bit for the archetype of player that he could be. There are players that could help this team, and more so than that is that the Sixers should be helping to facilitate a trade, even if you are not the winner. So while I'm not a Darius Garland guy, while I want them to stay far away from him as a pairing with Tyrese Maxey, who, by the way, I think is just straight up better than Darius Garland at this point, and you flash back a year ago, that would seem like the hottest take in the world, but I think that's just pretty clear cut at this point in time. That's how good Tyrese Maxey has gotten, while Darius Garland has more or less stayed still in his developmental arc. But I do think that the Sixers should focus on looking for that big fish and then finding opportunities like this to get the pieces around the edge. I still, as much as we have had all these trade discussions, and as much as he's not the perfect player, the more I think about it, the more signs point toward Paul George being the answer for the team. And the reason that I say that completely is you can outright sign the guy. That it does not take digging into your pile of draft picks, digging into your assets to trade. That if you can just write out a check and have that man cash it and he walks through your door, you have plenty of other moves you can do beyond that. So that is when you can get the best of this world, best of both worlds for these types of opportunities, but still a long offseason ahead to see what the Sixers team will ultimately end up being. But I do want to hear if you guys disagree with me. Am I wrong on Darius Garland here? Do you think there is a world where he could be compatible with Tyrese Maxey in the backcourt? Is there a world where Darius Garland is the difference maker on a potential Sixers championship run? I personally can't wrap my mind around to believe that is the case, but I would love to hear from you guys if you do feel that way. So let me know in the comments. Make sure you're dropping a like on this video, dropping a subscribe on the channel to keep the Sixers Digest family growing, and I'll be back dropping more content throughout the rest of the offseason. Appreciate each and every one of you tuning in, and talk to you next time. Peace.